Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here today with Ian Bliss. Ian, of course, just did a presentation at the latest virtual Metal Investor Forum, June 18th. We're just a little bit after that, and I just want to go through a few questions with Ian. I mean, some things that popped up on feedback. Not everything came in fast enough to deal with in the Q&A. So just let me run through these with you, Ian. You announced that drilling is going to start shortly at Shot Rock. Is that going to be essentially all at the highway zone? Is that the plan for phase 2?
Yeah, essentially all the drilling right now is planned for the highway zone, though in that I include what we call Crystal Hill, which is really a continuation of the highway zone. But at the moment we won't do any drilling. The plan is not to do any drilling on the middle zone, because that will just dilute and distract a little bit from the highway zone, and it'll be starting from scratch to build up the picture. So we'd much rather focus on the highway zone, but I say that does include what's also on the maps is Crystal Hill, which is right next door, because some of these structures that we're following and the zones of reduced magnetic signature trend into the Crystal Hill area. So it'll be the highway zone, including Crystal Hill. Okay,
so the northeastern part, people can see this on the presentation that was up during the deck that was up during Ian's presentation, and a presentation was sent to attendees, but that low magnetic area, sort of the northeast part of that is essentially Crystal Hill. That's where it ends to the northeast.
Yeah, not to the far northeast are sort of some interpreted targets, but Crystal Hill is only about, I think it's about 400 or 500 meters to the northeast of Highway Hill. It's on the other side of a valley, which we probably think is a fault-guided valley and part of the system. No outcrop in there, and so we'll be sort of drilling underneath that valley towards Crystal Hill, where we have known outcrop of some of these banded quartz veins that we discovered last summer.
And are you going to be hitting the structure where you drilled the discovery hole again, or is it going to be just focused on other structures there?
No, we're definitely going to basically drill around that intersection, try to hit it a little bit deeper, see if the grades or widths improve, actually come up a little bit, because we may even have undercut it, and of course try to extend the strike length to the west and to the east. So we'll follow up on that intersection from hole number 4 with up to 22 grams per ton, and then step back and try to hit some of these parallel structures. And of course, it's those parallel structures that then coincide with this area of reduced magnetic signature, which is, really caught our attention, because we clearly see it in the drill core that the mineralization is associated with the reduced magnetic signature. And it, especially on the 3D image, as I showed you yesterday, that notch in the magnetic signature really matches the epithermal model, absolutely bang on.
Okay, and are you strictly focused on this area? Like there are, when you look at the sort of the maps for the whole property, there are, I don't know, 3 or 4 or more of these cells that I guess are individual hydrothermal plumes. Are you going to do any work on the rest of them, or is it strictly just focus highway zone drilling, period?
No, we will go out and get back on the ground, both within the highway zone, especially since we have road access, the drill road access. It avoids us several hours of walking each day, so we'll do more detailed work within the highway zone. And then we have a number of targets to follow up from, even back in 2018 and from last year. Some soil sample anomalies, some other samples, rock samples that Patrick has found that are anomalous in gold. And actually, one of the very first samples he collected was about, I think, a kilometer south of the highway zone. And we haven't really been back to that since discovering the highway zone, but there are some samples there in outcrop that are indicative of a low sulfidation system. So we'll follow up on some of these samples now that we got some traction in the area.
Okay, and I know you've got a crew going in Newfoundland at Root and Cellar. I know that's, it's surface work. It's not very, you're not ripping trenches open or anything like that. And I don't know how much outcrop there is. I mean, how is it going? Are they seeing anything, or is it just basically a lot of dirt?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're finding new outcrop in the bush. I say they're covering a lot of ground. I mean, this soil sample is 100-meter line spacing. They're covering an area about 5 kilometers long, I believe. So there's a lot of walking around in the bush. So they're coming up with new outcrop every day. There's a little bit of a slow start. There was some very heavy rain early on in that soil sample program, which created some weather days, but they're progressing very well. It's too bad about these travel restrictions of the COVID, because it sounds like they're finding some pretty neat-looking outcrops with mineralization in it, and that I would very much like to see. But I'll have to wait a few more weeks for that. But they're progressing nicely, 1/3 of the way through the soil sampling, and finding some outcrop that certainly sounds attractive.
Okay, and you mentioned fairly quickly yesterday in the presentation, you just staked another project in Nova Scotia. I believe you said it was like 100, 150 kilometers to the west of Shot Rock. I mean, obviously you had some reason for doing that. Is there anything else you can tell us about that property? Why did you decide to stake there?
Yeah, it's about, say, 150, 170 kilometers west of Shot Rock, right at the western sort of tip of Nova Scotia. There's not a lot of data there. What limited publicly available data it is from Department of Energy and Mines. There's a little bit of geophysics, and that geophysical signature suggested there may be some of these gabbroic intrusions around, which at Shot Rock seem to be responsible for perhaps driving these fluids. There's some stream sediment samples and soil samples that are anomalous in gold and some of the other pathfinder elements we see at Shot Rock. So there's not a lot of data there, but it has that little bit of a feel to it, both in the superficial geochemistry and in some very coarse geophysics. And it's probably just a gut feeling, and it was a gut feeling that, after Patrick told me a little bit about some of the rocks at Shot Rock, that I just had a good feeling that it was worth following up. And so we'll have another sort of a roll out the dice and have a look at this project. So it's very early days, but we'll be on the ground there shortly, and hope to be able to build on it fairly quickly.
I mean, there's a lot of road generally in Nova Scotia. The access is fairly good to this area. Like, it's not going to be too hard to get to.
No, I don't believe so. In fact, there has been a lot of forestry in the past. So again, there's a good network of forestry roads that provide, good either ATV access or walking access. But it's reasonably accessible from what I understand.
Okay, and
like most of Nova Scotia, I've said before, is it's vastly underexplored, particularly this Avalon terrain, and as I say, it's just begging to be explored. And you see what Atlantic Gold did in the known gold district in Nova Scotia, proving up multi-million ounce resource fairly quickly there. So I like our chances of going into these really underexplored areas and taking a look around.
Okay, and just to touch on it briefly, I know you're not, well, as far as I know, this is part of the question, I guess. As far as I know, you're not doing any work on it this year, but Northern Shield has been known in the past more as a sort of a nickel PGE, and you did have one slide yesterday you threw up of your projects in Northern Quebec, and that's what originally got my interest with Northern Shield. That's why I originally bought it. The one that I know a lot of your shareholders, because they ask me about it all the time, have a lot of interest in is Edifix, and that's because there's some fairly eye-popping grades there, and I'm not sure how those fit into the picture. I mean, and do you think you'll be doing anything with that, or is anybody approaching you about it? I mean, is there any kind of activity on that side at all?
At the moment, none is planned, though. In an ideal world, we would be up there for sure this time, with most because we like the science and the results behind the project, and of course with the improved prices in PGEs. But it's an expensive area to work, but we're going to try to get up there, if the financing works out later on this year, particularly perhaps on the backs of Shot Rock. But we have received, ever since really PDAC, where we started sort of bringing out these results again and just reminding people what almost unheard of project, the spectacular grades of PGE, 16 grams per ton in some of these channel samples and grab samples from surface. And some of these globules of sulfide in the drill core are running, 53 grams palladium. And so there's some very rich sulfides, PGE-rich sulfides up there. And it really should be, see some more exploration. In an ideal world, we'd be up there. But we have received quite a bit of interest since PDC on this project. Of course, the COVID pandemic kind of got in the way of that. But some of that interest is being renewed right now. So we hope to somehow get back or have that project being explored, because it certainly deserves it.
And on that score, and this again is something people ask me about, and to be clear, I want to preface it by saying I'm personally not a prospect generator guy, so I'm in no hurry for you to do anything with the epithermal stuff. But in the past, with the PGE stuff, you have got a pretty good track record, you and Christine, of getting major companies in quite early. I mean, sometimes when these things are really just a concept, you put together pretty strong deals on very early stage projects. Are any of those larger companies kind of sniffing around anymore, or are they all gone, or what's going on there?
Yeah, no, they're still there. I mean, obviously, you're right. We don't really want to joint venture the epithermals right now, but we're building up a stable of properties so that might provide opportunities down the road for more partnerships. But there's always interest in these projects, and partly because of majors, just like you and I, that they know that in the brand new areas which we're exploring, there's opportunities for real discoveries, and they can be large scale or easy accessible. But if you go to these new areas, they know there's opportunities for pretty unique discoveries, and I think that's why we're able to attract these majors early on, because we do go to these where no man has gone before, so to speak, at least in exploration terms. And we also bring a lot of science, as you know, with Christine. It's not just the assay results. We're learning a lot on the epithermal side, but certainly our background in PGEs, we bring a lot of the other science behind the assays, which at the end of the day, the majors are going to be looking for that science to, prove their point that we're stepping in. So we bring that, right up front.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I got today. I mean, I just want to remind people this is a very interesting story. I really like, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I've written lots of placement checks. I like companies, and there's very, very few that are actually willing, as Ian put it, to go where no man's gone before. You guys have done a lot of fresh work in areas no one explored before, and personally, in a country that's had as much exploration as Canada or the States, let's face it, if you're going to go out and find a 5 or 10 million ounce deposit, it's probably not going to be where 30 people have been already. It's probably, even if it's only a kilometer away, it's probably going to be somewhere no one's really looked at. And that's really what you guys specialize in, and that's why you've got literally brand new discoveries. That's what I love about this stock. I'm really looking forward to the shot rock drilling, and I'm really looking forward to the root and cellar work too. I love that project too. It looks like it's got huge, huge potential. So thanks for coming by, Ian, and I am sure we'll be talking again soon. I'll be bugging you for news releases just like everybody else. But I think that's enough bugging you for today. Thanks for coming by, ladies and gents. We'll see you again soon.